Sure. Here's a short yet powerful hook for your story. What happens when forbidden attraction turns into a lesson in love? Can age truly define what the heart desires? The story begins on an ordinary afternoon, one of those days where the sun casts a gentle warmth across the neighborhood, and everything feels just a bit more alive. Our young narrator, a 24-year-old man, is walking back from the nearby bookstore, carrying a few novels he's been meaning to read. His mind is still lost in the pages of a book he'd just finished, when something catches his eye: the garden of his neighbor's house. It's quiet, yet it's anything but ordinary. The vibrant colors of the flowers stand out against the backdrop of an old, charming house. But it's not the flowers that pull his attention. It's her, his neighbor's mother. He's seen her around before, but today there's something different. She's out in the garden, tending to the flowers with the calm expertise of someone who's spent years perfecting the craft. Her hair is pulled back in a loose bun, with a few stray strands falling loosely around her face. She's graceful, not in the conventional sense, but in a way that feels timeless, like someone who knows herself, inside and out. Her movements are fluid, controlled, yet there's a kind of gentleness to her presence that feels like it has been earned over years of life experience. As he stands at the edge of the sidewalk, he can't help but watch her for a moment longer. There's a quiet beauty in the way she works, her hands moving steadily as she arranges a flower bed. The sun catches the edge of her sleeve, and for just a second, he catches a glimpse of her smile, a brief but knowing curve of her lips as she notices him standing there, watching. He feels a little caught off guard, almost embarrassed for being seen. But instead of turning away, his curiosity is piqued. He's never really thought about her in this way before, but today, something feels different. There's an energy in the air, a kind of electric tension, as though a door to something he didn't realize he was looking for is just barely cracked open. She straightens up from her task, her eyes meeting his. "You've been reading a lot lately, haven't you?" she says, her voice soft but confident, not just speaking to fill the silence but with a genuine interest. The question surprises him. She's never really spoken to him before, except in passing. But there's an ease in her tone, as if this is a normal, natural conversation. He nods awkwardly, holding up the books in his hand. "Yeah, just a little." Her eyes flicker briefly to the books, and then back to him, as if something is silently passing between them. "I could teach you more than school ever did," she says with a playful smile, her eyes gleaming with a knowing warmth. The words land heavier than he expects, lingering in the air. His chest tightens slightly, and though it's just a passing comment, there's a pull in her tone, a hint of something deeper beneath the surface that he doesn't quite understand. He watches her for a moment longer, his mind racing with thoughts he can't quite untangle, before she smiles again, turning back to her garden. In that brief exchange, the seed of something begins to take root, something unspoken, yet undeniable. The tension hangs in the air, subtle but powerful. He walks away, his steps slower than usual, as the weight of her words and the connection between them settle deep in his thoughts. What was that? What did she mean? Over the next few days, the young man finds himself thinking about his brief conversation with his neighbor's mother more than he expected. The words she spoke linger in his mind, echoing through the quiet moments of his routine. "I could teach you more than school ever did." What did she mean by that? Was it a joke? A casual comment? Or was there something more to it? He begins to make excuses to visit his neighbor's house, though he can't fully explain why. Sometimes it's to collect a package for her, other times it's a simple, "I thought I'd drop by and see how you're doing." His visits feel innocent enough, but the more he stops by, the more he starts to look forward to them, especially when he sees her in the garden. It's always the same calm energy surrounding her, whether she's pruning the rosebushes or rearranging the pots on the porch. She is always in a world of her own, yet somehow aware of everything around her. Each time, their exchanges feel less like small talk and more like real conversations. They begin discussing things beyond surface-level pleasantries: books, history, life's little struggles. She is open, engaging, and somehow always seems to offer a perspective he hadn't considered before. She listens attentively when he speaks, her eyes never leaving him, as though she's studying him, but in a way that's neither intrusive nor intimidating. He feels like she sees him, not just the young man with potential, but the person beneath the surface, someone with all the layers that often go unnoticed by others. The more he gets to know her, the more he realizes how much he values these conversations. She isn't just his neighbor's mother. She's a woman full of insight, wisdom, and grace, and, although the age gap has always been present, it never once feels like an obstacle between them. There's a depth to her, a richness that draws him in. One afternoon, he's sitting in the living room, quietly sipping coffee while she prepares lunch. She talks about her travels in her younger years, describing places he's only dreamed of visiting. There's a wistfulness in her voice, a soft longing as she recounts stories of the roads she walked, the people she met. He's drawn in by the passion with which she speaks, how every word seems to hold more meaning than the last. As she tells him about a particularly life-changing moment from her youth, her eyes sparkle with nostalgia. He listens, captivated not just by the story but by the woman herself. The connection between them deepens, and in that moment, something shifts. The awkwardness he once felt in her presence is gone, replaced by a quiet understanding. At the end of their conversation, she smiles warmly at him. "It's good to have someone to talk to," she says softly, her tone genuine, as though she's not just talking about the weather or small talk. She means it. And for the first time, he feels seen, not just as the young man next door, but as someone worthy of her time and attention. As he leaves her house that day, he walks with a lighter step, his thoughts swirling. Something has changed between them. There's a subtle shift, a deeper connection that neither of them has acknowledged directly, but it's there. The boundaries of neighborliness are starting to blur, and with every passing visit, the attraction between them grows. Quiet, steady, and undeniable. With each passing day, the young man finds himself more drawn to her, not just for her wisdom and grace, but for something deeper, something unspoken. The ease of their conversations continues, yet an undeniable tension begins to simmer beneath the surface. It's subtle at first, a lingering glance, a moment too long spent in each other's presence. Each visit to her house, every shared cup of coffee, feels like a small step into uncharted territory he isn't sure he should explore, but can't seem to avoid. There are moments when she will touch his arm, perhaps to guide him as they walk to the garden, or when she hands him something. The touches are brief, yet they send a ripple of warmth through him. He's never experienced this kind of closeness with someone so older than him, yet in her presence, the age gap fades into the background. It doesn't matter. What matters is the connection they're forming, and how easily it flows. One afternoon, they are sitting in the garden together, talking about life's small joys. The sun is beginning its descent behind the house, casting a soft golden light over the flowers. She hands him a pair of garden shears, their fingers brushing lightly as they exchange the tool. It's a small gesture, but the touch lingers in his mind, the sensation of her skin against his, the slight warmth of her hand. He tries to shake it off, to focus on the task at hand, trimming the hedges, but the sensation of her touch clings to him. The thought of her hand so close to his continues to pulse in his chest, and he wonders if she feels it too. She notices the quiet hesitation in him and looks up from her work, her eyes meeting his with an almost knowing smile. "You're a bit distracted today," she remarks lightly, her voice teasing but kind, as if she's aware of the undercurrent of tension but doesn't want to bring it up directly. His heart skips a beat, and he stammers, trying to recover. "Just, lost in thought." The words feel flimsy, but she doesn't press him. Instead, she continues, her gaze soft but understanding. There's a flicker of something in her eyes, something that mirrors his own confusion and desire, but neither speaks of it. It's as though they've reached a threshold neither of them is yet ready to cross. Later, as they sit close together on the porch, enjoying the evening air, the space between them seems to shrink. He's acutely aware of her presence, the warmth of her body beside his, the gentle sway of her movements as she shifts slightly in her seat. She's so close that he can smell the faintest trace of her perfume, a delicate scent that lingers in the air long after she's moved. His fingers twitch, longing to reach out, but he stops himself each time. He doesn't want to make things awkward, and yet, everything in him pulls toward her. There's a moment when their eyes meet, an intense, quiet exchange, full of everything they both want to say but can't. It's in the way her lips part slightly, as if she's about to speak, but instead, she looks away, as if breaking the gaze will somehow preserve the fragile space they're in. And yet, despite the hesitation, the pull between them is undeniable. The tension in the air is thick now, almost palpable. It's not just physical, it's emotional. The more they talk, the more they share, the deeper the bond grows. And the more that bond grows, the more the attraction between them intensifies. But there's hesitation too, both of them wondering if they should cross that line. The next few weeks pass in a haze of quiet tension, as their meetings grow longer, the conversations deeper. What started as casual chats in the garden or over coffee slowly transforms into something more, something intimate, unspoken, but tangible in every glance they share, every moment they sit just a little too close. They've opened up to each other about their lives, their dreams, and their pasts, and as time goes on, the barriers that once kept them apart start to feel irrelevant. The age gap, once so glaring, now seems less important than the emotional connection they share. One evening, after a long conversation about the meaning of success, the young man finds himself telling her something he hasn't told anyone, something that has been quietly gnawing at him for months. They're sitting on the porch, the sound of crickets chirping in the distance, the air cooling as the evening sets in. The orange glow of the setting sun bathes everything in a warm, comforting light, and the quiet is almost therapeutic. "I've been struggling," he admits quietly, his voice breaking the comfortable silence. "Struggling to find where I fit, what I'm supposed to do next. I've been so focused on getting things right that I don't know if I've even stopped to think about whether it's what I actually want." He pauses, running a hand through his hair, not looking at her but feeling the weight of his words hanging in the air. She doesn't interrupt. Instead, she waits, her gaze soft, patient. She understands the hesitation in his voice, the fear of being vulnerable, the anxiety that comes with admitting doubt. He's always been the one to hold it all together, always presenting himself as someone who had it figured out. But tonight, with her sitting beside him, something in him cracks open, and he can't hold the weight anymore. Her response is quiet, but it carries an undeniable sincerity. "You're not alone in that," she says gently, her voice like a balm to his raw honesty. "I think we all struggle with that feeling, wondering if we're on the right path, or if we're just following the one we've been told is the only choice. You don't have to have it all figured out right now." The softness of her voice, the way she listens without judgment, makes him feel safe, something he hasn't felt in a long time. But as she speaks, he becomes acutely aware of how much he's come to rely on her presence. Not just for her wisdom, but for the quiet comfort she brings, a stability he never realized he needed. Her hand rests gently on the table between them, just inches from his. It's a subtle gesture, but to him, it feels like an invitation, a silent offer of understanding and support. It's a touch that carries weight, one that says more than words could. "Thank you," he murmurs, his voice low but filled with gratitude. There's an honesty in his eyes that he's never shown her before, an openness that feels almost dangerous, like he's giving her a piece of himself he's not sure he can get back. She smiles softly, a tender, almost wistful expression. "It's okay to be unsure," she says quietly, her eyes meeting his with a depth that sends a shiver down his spine. "It's okay to take your time and figure it out. And you don't have to do it alone." The words linger in the air, and for a brief moment, it's as if everything has paused. The unspoken tension between them feels almost tangible, a connection that's shifted from casual to deeply intimate. But neither speaks of it aloud. Instead, they sit in the quiet, letting the moment stretch between them, filled with everything they both feel but can't yet put into words. And yet, even in that silence, it's clear, something has changed. There's a subtle shift in the way they look at each other now, a deeper understanding, a shared vulnerability that neither is willing to acknowledge just yet, but both know is there. As the days pass, the young man's feelings for his neighbor's mother only deepen. The connection between them, once simple and innocent, has grown into something more intense, something unspoken but undeniable. The conversations have shifted, moving beyond casual small talk into a space where they share personal insights, dreams, and thoughts they've never expressed to anyone else. It's not just the topics they discuss, but the way they talk, the way their eyes meet, lingering just a second longer than normal. There's a tension that hums quietly between them, a tension that neither of them is ready to address openly, but which neither can deny. He begins to notice how much he looks forward to these moments. The time they spend together feels like a sanctuary, a place where the noise of the world falls away, and all that matters is the soft, steady rhythm of their conversation. But as much as he enjoys her company, he can't help but wrestle with the growing attraction he feels. It's confusing. There's an age gap, she's more experienced, wise, and accomplished, while he's still figuring himself out. He wonders if she sees him as just the young man next door, or if there's something deeper behind her knowing smiles, the way she listens to him with such attentiveness, the subtle touches she sometimes offers. One afternoon, they find themselves sitting together on the porch again, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The sky is painted with soft hues of purple and orange, and the air is cool and comforting. She talks about a trip she took to the mountains years ago, a trip that changed her perspective on life. Her eyes glow with nostalgia, and he feels a tug in his chest, as though he's seeing a side of her that most people don't. He can tell that these memories are precious to her, stories that have shaped her into the woman she is today. He listens intently, but all the while, his thoughts keep drifting to the way her hand rests on the arm of the chair, so close to his own. The space between them feels smaller than it ever has before, and the desire to bridge that gap grows stronger by the minute. He wants to reach out, to touch her hand, but fear holds him back. He worries about crossing a line that shouldn't be crossed, especially when she has been nothing but kind and respectful toward him. He doesn't want to ruin what they have, but the pull between them feels stronger than ever. And yet, there's hesitation. He knows that their connection is special, but the uncertainty about where this could lead lingers in his mind. He's not sure if he's ready to face the consequences of his feelings, if he's ready to confront the possibility of a relationship that others might view as inappropriate. The fear of judgment looms in the background, even though every instinct tells him that the bond they share is real. As the evening wears on, he glances at her, only to find her looking at him with a quiet intensity. There's something in her gaze, a depth of understanding, as though she's aware of the conflict churning inside him. For a moment, time seems to stretch between them. Neither speaks, but the tension between them is palpable, as if their unspoken feelings hang in the air, just waiting for one of them to acknowledge them. But neither does. Instead, she smiles gently, a smile that feels both comforting and painful at once. Sometimes, the hardest thing is knowing when to let go, she says softly, her voice quiet but filled with a weight that catches him off guard. But maybe the real challenge is knowing when to hold on. Her words settle in his chest, stirring something deep inside him. He's not sure if she's speaking about the past or something more, but in that moment, he realizes she's offering him something, an invitation, a challenge. And just like that, the quiet shift between them becomes impossible to ignore. There's no turning back now. The unspoken tension between them has grown nearly unbearable. The quiet moments, the lingering glances, the accidental brushes of their hands, all of it has led them here, to a place where both of them are aware of the weight of what's between them but have yet to address it. The young man can't help but wonder how much longer they can go on like this, circling each other in quiet hesitation. Every time he's with her, the attraction builds, but so does the conflict inside him. The more they talk, the more they share, the harder it becomes to ignore the growing connection they have. One evening, after an unexpectedly emotional conversation about life, regrets, and missed opportunities, something shifts. They've spent hours talking, long after the sun has set and the cool night air settles in. The stars twinkle above them, but neither of them notices them, they are too engrossed in each other. It's during this moment that he realizes just how deeply he's fallen for her. Not just because of her beauty or her charm, but because of the way she listens, the way she sees him. She has a quiet, grounded wisdom that draws him in, and in her presence, he feels both seen and understood in a way no one else has ever made him feel. She's speaking softly now, sharing a vulnerable part of her past that she hasn't opened up about before. Her words are tinged with regret, a quiet sadness that echoes in her voice. It's a story she's carried for years, one she's kept hidden from most, but in this moment, she shares it with him. And he listens, not just with his ears, but with his heart. He doesn't interrupt, doesn't try to offer solutions or empty words of comfort. He just listens, feeling the weight of her story, and his chest tightens with the realization that she trusts him. When she finishes, there's a long silence between them. He feels the emotional gravity of the moment, the intensity of their connection. And then, almost without thinking, he reaches out, tentatively, almost as if he's afraid she might pull away. His hand rests gently on hers, their fingers brushing together for the first time, but this time, it feels like more than just a touch. There's a tenderness in his gesture, an unspoken promise, a desire to be there for her, to offer comfort without words. Her breath catches at the contact, and for the first time, she doesn't pull away. Instead, she looks at him, really looks at him, with eyes that are filled with something more than just gratitude. There's a quiet longing there, a recognition of the bond they've formed, a bond that neither of them can deny anymore. Do you ever wonder, she asks softly, her voice barely a whisper, if we're too old for this? Too old for something that feels so new. Her words hit him like a soft wave, crashing over him with both a sense of relief and uncertainty. She's been feeling the same way, this unspoken pull, this quiet attraction. He can't deny it any longer, but the weight of the question still lingers in the air. Are they too different? Too far apart in age, in experience, in expectations? For a long moment, he doesn't answer, his heart pounding in his chest. He just looks at her, the woman who has become so much more than his neighbor's mother, the woman who has opened up his heart in ways he never imagined. And then, finally, he says, his voice low and steady, I don't think it matters how old we are. I think what matters is how we feel. There's a quiet truth in his words, one that resonates between them, filling the space with the unspoken understanding of what they both feel. She nods slowly, her lips parting as though she's about to say something, but she doesn't. Instead, she reaches for him, her hand finding his, and this time, there's no hesitation. The connection between them is undeniable. In that moment, the world around them fades. The doubts, the fears, the uncertainties, they all vanish in the quiet certainty of the touch between them. It's the first step into something new, something they can no longer ignore. And though the future is uncertain, one thing is clear, they're ready to face it, together. The quiet tension between them has finally broken, and as they sit together on the porch, the young man feels a calmness settle within him. The weight of unspoken words and doubts has been lifted, replaced with something simpler, something real. It's not the kind of love that demands grand gestures or dramatic confessions. No, their connection is more subtle, more profound, built on the quiet moments they've shared and the gentle way they've come to understand each other. In a way, it's been unfolding all along, gradually, naturally, and without force. The evening is peaceful, with the first hints of night beginning to settle over the garden. The soft chirping of crickets fills the air, and the stars are just beginning to pierce the darkening sky. They sit side by side, her shoulder occasionally brushing against his, the closeness between them so natural now, so comfortable. The words they speak are fewer, but the silence between them feels more meaningful than any conversation they've had before. There's no need for dramatic declarations anymore. Everything that needs to be said has been spoken in the small, quiet moments they've shared. His hand is resting lightly on the arm of her chair, and she doesn't pull away. Instead, she subtly shifts closer, her hand finding his in a quiet gesture of trust. It's the simplest of touches, but it holds the weight of everything they've been through together, the confusion, the hesitation, the vulnerability, and everything they are now willing to face together. As the night deepens, he turns to her, the soft glow of the porch light casting shadows on her face. Her eyes are warm, filled with the same understanding that has existed between them all along. And yet, in this moment, there's something new in them, a quiet joy, a relief, as though the weight of uncertainty has finally been lifted from both of their shoulders. "I never thought I'd feel this way," he admits softly, his voice low but filled with sincerity. "I didn't know it was possible to feel so connected to someone who's not just in my life, but who's helped me see it differently. You've shown me more than I ever expected to learn, in ways I didn't even know I needed." Her smile is soft, almost tender, as she turns toward him. "And you've taught me something too," she says, her voice full of emotion. "That sometimes, the most unexpected connections are the ones that make the most sense. That love doesn't always look like what we expect it to. But when it's real, when it's this real, it doesn't need anything else." The words settle between them, and he feels his heart swell with a quiet happiness. For the first time, he's not just unsure of where his life is heading, he's no longer questioning whether he's capable of love, or whether he deserves it. With her, all of that feels less important. What matters now is that they have found each other, against all odds, despite all the reasons they might have held back, and it feels like the beginning of something new. Something solid. They sit together in the fading light, their fingers intertwined, the unspoken promise of the future quietly hanging in the air. It's not a perfect, fairy tale ending, and it doesn't need to be. What matters is that they've found something true, something they both want to hold on to. They've crossed the threshold, and now they're ready to take whatever comes next, together. For the first time in a long time, both of them feel at peace, knowing that whatever they've begun will grow, quietly and steadily, into something lasting. The connection between them is no longer just a dream, a possibility, it's real, and it's enough. And as the night falls around them, they lean in, their heads resting lightly against each other, not needing words to express the fullness of the moment. The beginning of something beautiful is unfolding, and they are ready to step into it. Together.